let me introduce the EduTouch FX panel. This recording has been done with Vitello Share, a wireless screen sharing app, which allows us to give you the best images we can. Now, what you see in front of you is the home screen. You'll notice there's a black box in the top center. This can be moved, and this displays the code that is used to actually link into Vitello Share. Over on the right-hand side, you'll notice there are some symbols, and that lets us know whether we have Wi-Fi, we have a USB connected, and we have our internet via Ethernet. You'll see we have in the center of the screen the date and time, and then we have 4 icons: the whiteboard, the file management system, screen sharing, and a browser. In the 2 sides, we have these sidebars, and what they do is that they will let you work with different tools and different apps, and they're both identical. It just depends which side of the screen you happen to be standing on. So what I'm going to do now is talk to you about the sidebar, and then what we'll do is look at the apps in the center of the screen. So first of all, the first icon goes back to the previous screen. The next one down is the home screen. So no matter where you are, by pressing that home icon, it will always come back to this screen. Even if you have the laptop or desktop connected with cables, you will still have a sidebar. It will be limited, and you will be able to come back to the home screen. The third one down shows you which apps you have open. Now, this is important that you don't have too many apps open. So just like a mobile phone, what happens is the more apps you have open, then what happens is the panel will be slower. So it is important to come in and regularly look at this. The other way you can use this particular icon is an amazing tool for setting up your classrooms for the morning. So for example, you'll see we have no windows open at the moment, but what you could do is you could come in, you could click on the whiteboard, and it's opened up the whiteboard. You could then access a previous file, or you could type in the lesson that you want for today. Once you've got it ready and open, all you need to do then is go back to the sidebar and click on home. Then, for example, we could go down to Finder, which is our file management system. We could click on that. We could open up a file that we want, and we would go back to home. We may want to go to the browser, so you could click on the browser. You could type in a YouTube link or some URL that you want to look at, and then what you would do is go back to home. So you'll notice then by going back to home every time, we've opened up things, we've got them ready to go. So when in your class you want to use them, all you need to do is to click on the Open Apps icon there, and it will show you what you have open. So when you're ready to go to the browser, rather than typing that YouTube link in while the students are all standing there watching, all you would have to do is tap it. Or, for example, if you wanted to go to the whiteboard, you would just tap it. The lesson that you have set up for today would be displayed. Now, just going back to those 3 icons, one thing that you can also do is at the end of the day or the next morning, you can take something and swipe it, and you'll see that it disappears. Also, you'll see, and I'm just going to go back to home to show you this better, you'll also notice that at the bottom center of the screen of the Open Apps side pane there, that it clicks on Clean All. So we could click on Clean All, and basically it will then remove everything. So then we're ready to set up again for the next day. So that's the first grouping on the sidebar. The next grouping has to do with apps. So the first one is Note, the whiteboard, which we'll look at after. Let's now go to the file management system. So looking at the file management system Finder, what you'll notice is that we have 3 areas here. You'll see that storage is green because that's what's active at the moment, and it's displaying a whole range of folders that are already on the panel. You can create your own folders, and you'll notice down in the bottom center of the screen, you've got an icon that says New. So New will let you create folders. You cannot remove any of the folders that are on the panel. The ones that come directly with the panels, these ones. You obviously can add and remove your own folders that you're creating. The folders that you create may be folders for different teachers who might share the panel. It may be for resources that you might want to store on the panel, or you may want to have folders for students, for example. So as they do work, you may want to store their work into their folder. You'll notice over on the left-hand side here, we have the USB I've already plugged a USB in. So there are 2 USB ports in the front right-hand side of your panel, and there are also USBs around the side on the right-hand side. So they're pretty handy because then you can have them plugged in and the students can't actually see the USBs. You also have access to a cloud drive. So if you're using Google Drive or OneDrive, you'll be able to have access to it there. Looking at the USB, so just say we have some resources on the USB that we would like to place onto the panel, then what we can do is on the toolbar in the lower left, we could click on Select. Now, by selecting, you'll see that it comes up with little boxes, check boxes, that we can choose which folders we wish to move over onto the panel. So clicking on a few of these particular folders, you'll see there I've got 3 of them selected. And so then from here, what I can do is you'll notice a new menu has appeared in the center of the bottom screen. So I could copy them, I could cut them or delete them. But a quick way to move these folders or copy these folders from your USB and place them onto the panel is to use the More option. So by clicking on More, you'll then notice that it comes up with Send option. And then from here, we can click on Storage. And what it will then do is move us from the USB and place them directly onto the panel. Alternatively, we could be clicking onto the Storage. And then what you'll notice is that we could do the same thing. We could select these folders, and then we would be able to move them to the panel. Okay, and then the More is open, and we would go More, Send to the USB. So it's a quick way to move between one and the other. Deselect everything. So we'll cancel that, and we'll go back to our USB. So notice that the USB is now green because it's selected. You'll notice that we have the USB selected over on the right. So just a single click. So if I click singly on the PDF, you'll see that it's open. A double click on that folder will open the contents of that folder. Single click will select that particular file. A double click will open it. Okay, so that's really looking at the Finder, the file system. Let's now move on and let's have a look at our additional apps. So looking at the waffle, the 9 dots there, you'll see there are a range of different apps available. Now, the first one is the whiteboard. We're looking at, as I was saying at the end. Keeper is the next one along. So Keeper lets you run your panel at optimum speeds. So one way is, of course, is to remove and make sure you don't have many apps open. The other way is to make sure that you clean it using the Keeper to clean the memory and also to clean the trash. So all that will do is delete any deleted items that you might be working with. Either do one or the other, or alternatively, just click on the one key optimize and it will do both. Now, what's important here is that you do it regularly. The next one is the screen lock. Now, I actually wouldn't recommend that you use the screen lock because what it does is it sets up a password, a panel password. So everybody using the panel will need to know the password before they can actually use it. What you could do instead is if you take your remote control, you'll notice in the center of the remote control, there are some colored buttons. Now, if you click on the red button, it will actually turn the touch off on the panel and disable the on-off switch. Now, the sensor that you need to do is over on the right-hand side. So if you point your remote over on the right-hand side near the USB ports, then you'll see that's where it is. A quick tap on the red button will lock the on-off switch and turn off the touch. Another quick tap on the red button will then enable them again. The next one along then in our apps area are the settings. So settings are really somewhere that the IT people go to so that they can set up any Wi-Fi issues or anything like that you may have. The next one along Finder, we've already looked at. That's where we're working with our files. The next one is the cloud drive. Now, the cloud drive, this is where you can actually log into either your Google Drive or your OneDrive if you happen to be using those. The next one along there is the theme. Now, the theme is quite cute. It actually lets you change the background of your panel. So one that actually is used fairly often is education. So if I click on education and choose that, you'll see that it comes up actually with 3 different options at the bottom. And so I could choose one of them. A popular one is the book, and then clicking on choose, you'll notice that it then applies it. So if we then go back to home, what you'll notice is that we have that particular theme or that particular background. You can also change the background to one of your own choice in the settings area. The next one along then is the Chromium, which is our browser. And the next one is the Get Store, which actually it's not worth using. It actually goes off to China to actually get some apps or something. So they will definitely be locked down in your schools or institutions. And the last one there, the WPS Office, that lets you work with PDF files, Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. Okay, so moving along, let's then look at the third grouping, which are the tools. So the first one is the Annotate. Annotate would be one of the most common features that we have. It actually lets you annotate or write on anything. You'll see here we have a pen. So it is by default a red pen, but you can actually tap that again and you can see that you can change the color. So with the red pen, holding the pen down, you can see then that you can circle different things, you can write, you can do whatever, you can annotate. There is also a brush, which is like a highlighter. So let's change the color of that, and then we could highlight over the top of things. You'll also notice that we have the clean, and what clean does is that it will actually delete everything. You can also just clean a part of what you see on the screen by using your hand. So it does depend upon how you hold your hand. Different people hold it in different ways. Some people will actually, it will be the side of their hand. Other people, their whole hand. I tend to use the ball of my thumb, if that's what it's called. It really just depends on you and the angle that you have. The bigger the surface area that touches the panel, then the bigger the eraser. You can also save what you have. So what happens when you save is it will save every single thing that you see on the screen. It will save it as a photo onto the panel. Under More, you'll notice that there are a number of different options. You have Finder, so it will open up the file area if you do actually save it. Insert will insert the image that you see on the screen into the whiteboard. And lastly, Share will open up a QR code, which you can then scan on any device that enables you to, that you can scan. So whether it be a mobile phone, whether it be an iPad, anything at all, by scanning that particular QR code, the image that you see on the screen will automatically be accessed or available on that device. And lastly, you can see that we can look at the cloud. Okay, so that's really looking at the annotations. And the thing to note is that you can use annotations on anything. So it could be you have a browser set up and you want to annotate. It could be that you're displaying a document or an app from your laptop and you want to annotate over the top. It really doesn't matter. Anything at all that you have and are displaying on the panel, you are able to annotate over. The next one down in our tools area lets us open up the source. So this allows you to choose between different devices. The Android is the panel itself. And if you have any laptops or desktops that are connected, then you can use those to just click on them. They would have a little green dot underneath them. So they would be connected by cable. If you have purchased a PC module that goes in, or an ops module that is attached or inside the actual panel itself, then when you look at the source, what you'll notice is that it will actually have an option that says PC as well. This screen is also where you can alter the brightness and the volume of your panel. Now, lastly, in the tools area, you'll see that there are 3 dots. Now, let's select the 3 dots and you'll see that there are a range of tools. So looking at the tools, the first one along is the timer. So the timer is a countdown timer. So let's change it to 5 seconds. Now, you can move this anywhere by just taking the top of it. It does sit over the top of any app that you have open. So if you're giving somebody 5 minutes activity, you could have it over the top of that app, whatever that happens to be. Now, if I click on Start, just notice that we now have a square box to the left of the cross. And when I do that again and click on the square box, what you'll notice is that it now is a full screen. You'll notice that this bell was quite loud, so that maybe depending on your circumstances, you may want to change that. Now, the next one along in our tools area is a stopwatch. So similarly to the timer, it will actually measure how long it takes somebody, and you can also move that around and it will sit on the top of everything. The next one is the record. That will let you record the movement on the panel. So if your students are doing anything, then what you can actually do is you could have being recorded as they're doing the work in the whiteboard or whatever it is that you're doing. Freeze will let you freeze the screen. So that's one option, is that it will freeze it. The second one is that you can actually zoom to make things larger. So if you do have particular photos or something that you need to get more information or to see clearer, then you can actually use the zoom to do that, or the freeze. The other options that coming along is the crop. So that is a screen crop. So you're able to then take photos of part of the actual screen itself. The other tool that you see coming along is a split screen. So the split screen will let you split your screen in half. So for example, you could have the whiteboard in one half and WPS Office in the other half. The camera, for the camera to work, you will need to have a USB camera attached to the panel itself. If that's the case, then you're able to take photos of the room that you're in or with that particular camera. Poll Kit is a polling tool. And so what happens here is that you can choose a number of options that you have that you would like the children to choose from. So just say you've got two. Could be an awesome activity or that could be used in team meetings, for example, if you want people to make a poll on something. So you can choose the options. They can be anonymous, or you can have it with multi-questions. So I'm going to take anonymous off so you can see me do it. And I'm going to click on Create Vote Code. Once I do that, it's going to come up with a QR code. And now on my mobile phone, I have to be on exactly the same network or subnet as the panel itself. Now I'm actually scanning that particular thing. It's come up. And now I have a screen where I'm able to actually vote. So you could then, as a teacher, be saying, you know, is it A or B? Which one is it? And as soon as this comes up, I will then vote on one of them. So it's still taking a little while for it to load. Okay, so I've got the two options. I can put my name in because I said not to be anonymous, and I'm going to say option 1 is the answer, and then I can submit. Now you'll notice it says that one person has voted, and I now have something telling me it's successful. So I can now create the voting result. And so you'll see that one person voted and this is what they voted. You can actually look at the details in the bottom left, and then it will tell you who the person was. So you can actually see if you have more than one person doing that, which results. Okay, and we'll exit out. Now, the next one along is a fast file transfer. So what happens here is that you can use your device and use the QR code to transfer a file or a photo, for example, from your device up onto the panel. And the next one is a calendar, so it will display a calendar. And lastly, you do have a touch overlay, so you're able to use this to then monitor having the touch on or off on the panel. All right, so that's looked at our apps, we've looked at the tools, we've looked at our movement. The last thing we want to now do is to look at our whiteboard. So clicking on Note on the center of our panel, then what you'll see is it now has opened up Note. Now, the first thing is let's look at the menus. We're going to go from the left-hand side here and work our way across to the right. So the first one is the hamburger menu. Now, what this does is it lets us doing a lot of things. We can work with our files. We can also work with changing some of the themes. But before we do that, I want to go into settings. And what I want to do is click on, with this eraser mode, click on erase selection. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to give you more options of how you can erase information. So coming back to our menu, we've had a look at that. Let's now look at theme. Theme will let you change the background color, but also it has some pre-built-in templates. So you can see you've got lines, we've got grids, we've got music notes. There are some, for example, some sporting type templates. I'll go back to nothing. I'm now going to go to the background. So that's the other tab at the top left-hand side. And you'll see that I can then change the color of that background. So I'll just change the color. But the other thing that's really good here is that you'll see there is a plus. Now, what the plus does is that it allows you to add or enter your own backgrounds. So, for example, one of the common ones that we frequently get asked is about the red and blue lines for the year ones. So you could have a photo, and it's telling you the size of it. You could have a photo which has the red and blue lines of a year one, and then you could put that up so that you could use that. But you can really do anything that you wanted to do, you can use as a background. It could be you have the alphabet and you're having children trace it. It could be you have numbers. You could have things that you want them to colour in. You could have the periodic tables. You could have any math sums that you want the children to actually do. So thinking about it, once you start to use backgrounds, it can become a very, very useful and powerful tool. Okay, back to our menu. You'll notice now that we have a number of options to work with files. So obviously new creates a new whiteboard. Open and save. So you can, if you're working with the whiteboard and it's time to go and you haven't finished, you can save it. It will save it as an extension ENV, which is only open really by the actual whiteboard itself. But the next morning you could come in and then open that whiteboard so that you can continue to work on it. You can also import and export files. So if you have been working on the panel and you now want to save it, you can save it as a photo or a PDF. Likewise, we can import photos or PDFs. So let's import a PDF. I have one on the USB. So we're going to go to the PDFs and I'll pick up the file and go OK. And you'll see now that it has brought it in. Now I can move it around because you'll see it's in select mode. And notice as well that it's now gone and said that the page numbering is 2 of 2. That is because page 1 is now blank and this put it on page 2. So if the PDF I brought in had 6 pages, then it would actually say 7 of 7 because page 1 would be blank and it started the PDF on page 2. You can make this larger, the image itself, by these dots. The other one I wanted to show you just now is with the 2 of 2, what you can see is, let's add a few more in. If I click on the numbers themselves, 9 of 9 in this case, you'll see that we have the 9 different pages. We can delete them. It's very easy to go to a different page. So we can go back to page 2, which has got our image. And what also is handy is that these backgrounds can have different colours. Because if you have children in the class who are dyslexic, for example, you can have the backgrounds as different colours. Now, also, what you'll notice is that we have a sharing option. So if you're able to, you can click on that. It will bring up a QR code. Same deal. We can scan it in and we'll be able to then have whatever you see on the panel as a resource on the device. So if the children have iPads, it's a great way to share the resource from that what you've been doing on your whiteboard to the children's iPads. Now, in the center of the screen here, we have a number of different tools. So we have looked at select. The pen will let you write. So a single tap will actually let you write in that particular color, whatever happens to be selected. If we tap it again, then what you'll notice is that we have 2 different pens. And you have 2 different pens. So there are 2 tabs, 2 different pen sizes. So the pen itself will have a fat nib on one end and a thin nib on the other. And so basically it depends which side of the panel of the pen you're using as to whether you're going to get the thin or the fat side. The other part about this is that it means that you can have more than one person using the panel at any one time. In fact, the panel is 20 touch, so you could actually have 20 children, 20 people standing in a row all working the panel at the same time. You'll notice for each of them that they do have a variety of different type styles, and you can obviously change the width of that particular pencil in this case. So see how it's now a lot wider. Now I'm just going to erase, which is the next option, and we'll just get rid of everything. So we're just going to clean off. And now back to the pen, I want to show you another option that we have is something called the magic wand. Now, just if you are using the magic wand, just be aware of which tab you are using, because otherwise you'll see what happens in a sec. So if I click on the magic wand, and now if I draw a circle, then what you'll notice is that it comes up with things that are like circles. So I could click on a ball, for example, or if I draw a square, then it's going to come up with things that are like a square or a triangle. So it's a really handy thing to do, but like I was saying, it's important to remember which pen you're doing it. Otherwise, you could have images appearing when you're expecting to have your text. Now, I'm just going to take the magic wand off. So we'll go back to the pencil, and then I'm going to click on Clean All. Now, with the eraser, we were talking before about different ways to erase. So let's have some marks on here. And one way that you can erase is with your hand, like we did before. But the other two ways, there are three ways, obviously. The other way is you can draw a circle. No, we need to click on eraser first. Draw a circle around it, and that will erase it. My actual favorite is just to draw a line through it, and then it will erase everything. Now, so that's really the basic functionality, using pens and erasing them. But now let's look at the range of tools that we have. So there is a ruler, and you can have either protractors or set squares. With the ruler, you are able to just draw a line across it, and we can close it. You can actually make it larger. You can move it around. The other options are, let's go back to our ruler, looking at the protractor, you can just put the angle that you want and then click on the tick. And now we'll close it, and you'll see that you have the angle. So they're good tools to have if you're working with measurement. Shapes, you'll have 2D and 3D shapes. So choose your shape. Let's have a triangle. You go to the starting point and drag. Go to the starting point and drag. One of the other options that you have is you have the 2D, and we also have the 3D. Now the 3D, let's go there. You'll see is exactly the same. We choose the type we want, go to starting point and drag. Starting point and drag. Now let me erase everything there. Also with the shapes, what can be quite useful is in the 2D shapes, you'll see there's a hand image. If I click on the hand, what that does is it will let me free draw something, and then it will actually neaten it. So if I try to make a nice rectangle, then you'll see that it will do that. So it just will, whatever the shape is that you're doing. Let's erase everything. All right, now moving along, tables. You'll see here we can add a table in. We've inserted our table. If we write information in the cell, what you'll see is that it will actually expand that cell to fit the text. And if we use the select option and highlight it, so you can do that by just drawing a circle around it, then it will actually allow you to edit the rows and columns. So we can remove them, or we could insert them. And then we can delete the whole thing. Also, we have a mind map. The mind map is quite handy. It does let you add extra cells in. If you write something, it will actually try to give you the options of what you wrote. It's a really great tool to have. Moving along, you've also got some sticky notes. Let's erase everything here. And the sticky notes lets you type in some text, and when you click OK, it stores it up in the top right-hand corner. I find these very useful so that if a student is asking a question and it's maybe not the right time to explain it, or you need to remember something, then it's really good as a tool just to have it in the top corner. Okay, so that's pretty much it, except we've got the preview. So let me just add a table. And all right, we've got a table and we've been writing things. We've got a whole lot of things on our particular panel itself. So let's just get some things happening. And you need more room. You've been brainstorming and you need more room. So you are able to reduce them or enlarge them. So that's pretty much the whiteboard itself. Let me go out of the whiteboard. And we have now looked at the panel itself. We've looked at the features on the front screen pretty much. We've looked at our options on the sidebar. The screen sharing is the Vitello Share, and the browser is a browser. If you have any questions about this training, if you would like further information, then please do contact us. You can email info@ig3education.com.au, or alternatively, give us a call on 1800 334 633.